Your tour guide for this program is Floyd Wickman. And I had the privilege of watching Floyd almost from the beginning of his career. I saw his struggles and I saw his triumphs and his successes. I've seen him develop and mature into the man he is today.
When the going gets tough, No. When the going gets tough, the tough get back to the basics. I believe if somebody would start a positive club and everybody in the world would join, we'd solve our problems almost overnight. Don't tell Linda I fell in love with affirmations. I became an affirmation that I fell in love. Zig Ziglar, you get everything in life you want if you help enough other people get what they want. See, when you introduced me, Jody, thank you, but when you brought me up here, it wasn't Floyd Wickman, it was all of these people. Napoleon Hill, adversity breeds success. Abe Lincoln, most folks are about as happy as they make up their minds to be. Bill Gove, the first president of National Speakers, taught me one time, don't forget what brung you. I said, how do I get from good to great? He said, keep doing what got you to good, and you'll get great. Og Mandino, love is the greatest secret of success. And he says, everybody you meet and approach, look them in the eye and say, I love you. Boy, I've met some ornery son of a guns. It was tough to do it. I've been on some Fizbos that eat their young, and they answer the door, and they're like this with a t-shirt on, like this, and I'm going, I love you.
Jeff, when you think about people who have had an impact on you professionally, especially as it relates to Glover U, who comes to mind?
Well, there's a lot of people that come to mind, but the first person that comes to mind would be Floyd Wickman.
And how were you introduced to Floyd?
My very first real estate broker, his name's Tim Riley. He's no longer with us. He essentially sat me down after a conversation about how, I wanted to become number one in the office, and he had a conversation with me about me thinking too small and that I was capable of becoming more than number one in the office. He said, Jeff, you could be number one in this town or even number one in this state. He said, you're not going to learn to become number one by the people here in the office. He said, you're going to learn you're going to accomplish what you want to accomplish by getting on an airplane and going and getting exposure to, someone who is at where you want to be. And I went and saw Floyd for the first time. And actually, that's when I learned that he was based in Michigan. He's from Detroit. He listed and sold real estate in Detroit. And I didn't know that. He was just this big national speaker in my mind. And so I was very fortunate because my brokerage had a really good relationship with Floyd. And so I got to spend probably more time learning from Floyd early on in my career than most, just because Floyd was local and my broker and he had a good relationship.
So you're a brand new salesperson.
Yep.
You have a big stack of scripts.
Yeah.
Was there anything else?
Well, the one thing that really propelled my career early on was I went through Floyd's, when I went through it, it was called Star Makers. Before that, it's more commonly known as sweat hogs. Like people who've been in the industry for 20 plus years, they've heard the term sweat hogs. It wasn't called sweat hogs by the time I took it. It was renamed to Star Makers, right? The whole idea was you go through this and you're gonna become a star. The program makes stars. And so, so I went through that program in the first 18 months of my career, I think 9 months of my career.
And was that like training in your office, or did you have to go off site for that? What did that look like?
We had to drive to Troy, Michigan, a suburb of Detroit. So about 45-minute drive once a week for 5 or 6 weeks. It's actually kind of interesting. The programs today that you see that are once a week for 5 or 6 weeks, most of them are all derivatives of the old Floyd Wickman 6-week sweat hog program.
Is there anything that you learned during that 6-week program all those years ago that still stuck with you?
Well, we had to recite the core values every single day in the morning, and I thought that was pretty cool. And as you can imagine, as an impressionable 18-year-old, because I was taking it at 18, 19 years old, there's a couple that stuck with me. One of them was to do what you say you're going to do, sometimes more, just never less. And, I kind of think of like, these are things that they don't necessarily teach you in school or in college. Like that's like a life lesson that I learned early on. And, at 18, 19 years old, I was still very impressionable. And that one really stuck with me. Do what you say you're going to do, sometimes more, just never less. And then the second one, and there was like 6 of them, but 2 of them really stood out to me. The second one was you get by giving. And what I remember uniquely about that one is not, you don't give with the intention of getting. You give knowing that life is full circle and it'll come back to you at some point, right? In other words, I think a lot of people, especially today, when they're starting companies or trainers or coaches, one of the strategies is, just give everything away, and that's how you're going to get people to buy your stuff. And while we have a lot of free resources at Glover U, the intention was always, no, we're always going to give. We're always going to give first. We're going to help people win without charging them anything first. If we do that, it will come back to us full circle. But the intention, give to get, is not you're giving so that you'll get. It's you're giving and you'll get eventually, if that makes sense.
So did you learn anything that you could apply from Sweat Hogs?
Yeah. My first year I sold 32 houses and I was a Rookie of the Year. And I credit that all to what I learned from Floyd. I mean, that's the only training I knew at that point. So yeah, that getting involved in coaching and following a system got me to 32 units in my first year.
And then after being a salesperson, what was your next step?
Well, all my friends went away to college and got their degrees or were working towards their degrees. And I thought, man, I'm just going to be this loser realtor with no degree. Like, I got to do something more than just be a realtor. And so I thought it would only make sense to go run a real estate brokerage, because I think my thought process was, if I went to college, I'm going to get a management degree and I'm probably going to be running a business. So how is this any different? So it was kind of more of an ego thing. I thought I could beat all my friends to their business jobs by just going and running a real estate office without a degree. And so after 2 years of selling real estate, I decided that I wanted to get into real estate leadership and run a brokerage. And that's where I met Kathy and Paul Schweitzer. I was only 20 years old. I had little leadership. I had no leadership experience. I was actually scared to death of sales meetings, because I was thinking at 20 years old, these people 2 or 3 times my age are not going to listen to me. And so I remember, because I thought, by the way, that running a real estate office just meant like training the agents one-on-one or going on appointments with them and script practicing with them. I didn't know the whole scope of running a brokerage. And so when they said, no, Jeff, you're going to have to put on like great sales meetings, like that's one of the jobs of a leader of a brokerage, I was a little scared of public speaking, mostly because I didn't think people 2 or 3 times my age would want to hear what I had to say in that type of setting. And so I went to Google immediately and searched speaking schools near me. And 2 schools came up. One was Schoolcraft College, which was right down the street from my office, actually. So that was perfect. It's community college. And I signed up for like Speaking 101 and Speaking 201. Like, I did both of them back to back. And also what came up was the Floyd Wickman School of Speaking and Training, also in Livonia at the Livonia Marriott. And what was coincidental about both of those is that I was running the Livonia office. And so the very next class was coming. I was hired in April or March of 2005, and the very next class was in like April or May. And so I already knew who Floyd was because I already used some of his strategies on appointments to take listings and have sales. And so I signed up and I took the 5-day course, and that's where I got that's where I got my speaking training from Floyd and his crew.
Did you ever get to meet him?
Yes. Yep. He was there. I think on day 1 and day 5. On day 5, we had to present everything we learned that week back to him, which was a little nerve-wracking for me because, again, 20 years old, couple years experience. I'm like idolizing this guy, right? I'm like, oh my gosh, and I got to turn around and teach his stuff back to him. So I was a little scared, but apparently I did well because there was maybe 30 of us in the class, and there was maybe 5 or 6 of us that got an invite up to Floyd's suite, which was essentially how they picked coaches to join Floyd Wickman's company. And they basically offered us, offered me an opportunity. And I just remember saying, like, I just got this management job. I mean, I'm 20 years old, right? Like, I just got this management job. Like, I'm not ready to go on the road. Like, I don't think Kathy, my boss, would like that. Like, I need to probably do this first. And I'll never forget, I kind of on the way out, I shook Floyd's hand. It's kind of, because I was kind of like, man, that was a really tough spot for me to be in, because I look up to this guy and what he does. I just have been using his stuff, and I also just got my dream job, what I thought was, running a real estate office, and they're giving me an opportunity that I know I can't accept and I shouldn't accept. And so I just shake Floyd's hand and I say, I want to do what you do one day. How do I get to your level? And he just said, son, you'll just have to do something extraordinary. And I remember thinking, like, first of all, if anyone knows Floyd's speaking style, everything's dramatic. Every word is dramatic. Like, he's just dramatic in his style of speaking. And, so it was like, son, you're going to have to do something extraordinary. And so I asked him, because, of course, I'm 20 years old. I'm like, is that all you got for me, old man? Like, in my mind, I didn't say that to him, but in my mind, I was thinking that. And I'm like, okay, what do you mean by doing something extraordinary, Floyd? He said, no. If you do something extraordinary, people will want to hear what you had to say. And so I went back to my office. I wrote down, I took out a notebook and I wrote down at the top. I mean, this was like 5, 6 o'clock on a Friday. Again, the office was right down the street. I took out a notebook and I wrote right at the top, what would be extraordinary in real estate? And I wrote down 2 sets of numbers. I wrote down the number 100 times 10, because I thought it would be extraordinary if I could sell 100 homes a year, 10 years in a row. That would check that box. And I wrote down the number 1,000, because I thought if I could get a real estate team to 1,000 homes, at the time there wasn't like expansion or any of that, so that's like a big deal. We'd be the first in Michigan to do it, and that would be extraordinary as well. And so if I could do those 2 things, if I could sell 100 homes a year, 10 years in a row, and get a real estate team to 1,000 units in a year, that would check the extraordinary box, and then I could do what Floyd Wickman does, or did.
And did you do that?
I did. Yep, from 2008 all the way to 2019, I never dropped below 100, so I actually did 11 years in a row. And in 2017, our real estate team hit over 1,000 units. I think it was 1,053. And January 2018, we had our first Glover U event in Mount Pleasant, Michigan.
And when you were planning for that event, you probably wanted somebody extraordinary to come and present. So who'd you ask?
So I thought it would only be appropriate, after working through all those years, thinking of what I wanted to really be doing long term, to invite the guy that gave me the advice to do it. And so I invited Floyd to be our first ever keynote speaker at a Glover U event at the, I don't know what the name of the casino is, in middle of the state, middle of nowhere, Michigan, in January 2018. And that's when we launched Glover U.
And so that was your first Glover U event and your first launch of Glover U, and
Yeah.
then you started hiring coaches.
Well, yeah, because when we had that very first event, we had no idea how it was going to go. We were selling coaching. We had one person sign up, and we had one coach to coach that one person. So that worked out okay, because we didn't need a bunch of coaches then. But a few years later, as people recognized, wow, these guys are legit. Like, this Glover U thing is for real. We had a lot of clients. We had a lot of people raise their hand and say they want to be coaches. And so I thought, okay, I need to start. I can't just hire people that have been with me. Our first coach was Kate Simon, and she was hired because she was one of the first salespeople, and she's a good coach. Like, she's got the personality to do so. But I thought, as the organization grows, I'm going to run out of people that were like on the sales team to come be coaches. And so I needed to create something to help us develop our coaches. And so we started the annual coaches retreat.
And so when you were prepping for that, you probably needed a speaker. Who'd you call?
Well, I did not have it all figured out for sure. And so I called Floyd Wickman and said, hey, we've got you spoke at our first event for agents. Now I've got a handful of coaches that I need to help them develop. Would you help me with this? And we held it down at the Detroit Yacht Club, which I knew would excite him because I know he's a boater. So I'm like, if I put it at the DYC, I bet he'll come. And he said yes. And he was like our guest star of the day, if you will. And he taught us how to speak, how to train. He taught us all sorts of stuff. It was a really fun time.
So now we're gearing up to host our last Live Unreal retreat in Michigan.
Yep.
And I know you've been prepping for it. What did you do last week to prep?
So I thought it would be appropriate to go see Floyd and have a conversation with him about the impact that he's made on me, and I wanted to thank him for that. And I wish he could be here with us in the room to see what it's turned into because of the advice he's given me through the years, and I just wanted to thank him for it.
And so you were able to sit down with him?
I was, yep, on the porch of the condos he's living in.
And one of the things that you talked to him about was Sweat Hogs, because that was the foundation that you built your career on. Mm-hmm. And you asked him what he remembered about it and the core values, and what was his favorite.
Without missing a beat, he said, "You get by giving in this life." And so, he's lived a great life. Obviously, he's since retired and he's in a different chapter of his life today. But it's worked very well for him, and I plan on continuing that path and following in his footsteps on that one.
So we do have some footage from last week. Mm-hmm. Should we show that now?
Yes, I think we should. So I guess show the footage.
Mm-hmm. There wasn't too many people. Today, real estate trainers and coaches are like a dime a dozen because of social media. Every time you turn around, there's a new trainer, there's a new coach.
Yeah, it makes sense.
There was only a few of you back then. I think
from what I recall.
Danielle Kennedy. You remember Danielle Kennedy?
Of course.
Obviously you, Mike.
Ferry.
Yep.
Tom Hopkins.
Tom Hopkins. He was kind of the marketing guy. Brian Buffini, I think, right?
Yeah, somewhat, but I didn't necessarily coexist with Brian.
Yeah. Do you remember what the biggest audience you ever spoke in front of was?
Oh, God. I couldn't tell you. Several thousand.
Several thousand, yeah. And what you created, that original Sweat Hogs program, you were the original creator of it.
Oh, of course.
Today, there's so many spin-offs of that.
Oh, is there?
They call them different names today.
Yeah.
But it all started with, what was that, a 5-week or a 6-week?
Well, I can't remember. But, I mean, the thing with it was, very high standards, a lot of rules to get in, high standards to stay in.
Yep.
And so that was the strength of that.
Yep. And the core philosophies, right? To always get by giving.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember those?
Of course. Yeah.
What was your favorite one?
Do what you say you'll do, sometimes more.
Just never less.
Never less.
That's right. Yeah, we had to recite every single class.
Oh, really?
The core beliefs.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah. The one that I like that one. The one that stood out to me was you get by giving.
Yeah.
And
so true.
I think about even, what I'm doing today with, I really look at myself as continuing in your footsteps with the industry.
Thank you.
And everything I've always tried to do based on that core value that I learned back in 2005 when I came to your, training was to get by giving. Give away more than you'll ever charge them for.
Yeah.
And you'll always get what you want later.
Yeah.
Right? Wasn't that a Zig Ziglar kind of?
Well, it was, first you give and then you get, meaning you didn't give to get.
Right. Yep.
You gave because it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, and it just happened naturally. The getting happens naturally. Where did the do what you say you'll do, sometimes more, just never less? Why did that one stick with you?
Well, because it was so common. Meaning that separated me from a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because everyone's overpromising.
Oh yeah.
I really appreciate you, spending a few minutes with us. I know.
It's my pleasure.
I know that you've made an impact on a lot of people. This conversation is going to make an impact on a lot of people. Is there any advice you have for someone that wants to live a better life or live a big life?
Get booked, stay booked.
Get booked,
Get
stay booked.
And stay booked.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Pardon?
What do you mean by that?
I just mean, you don't sit around hoping you land some business. You generate it.
Yep.
Go out and do it.
You go out and do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the old 3 dogs sitting out of the bakery joke? I learned that one from you.
Oh God,
The banker's dog?
Yeah, I can't remember it.
Yeah.
Oh.
That was one of the things that we had to learn in your speaking school was how to tell jokes.
Yeah.
And if you can't get the audience to laugh or participate, engage,
Right.
right? Remember, train, entertain, motivate.
Teach, entertain, and motivate.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are all the things that I'm applying today in everything I do.
Well, good for you.
So I appreciate you teaching me that. And now I'm teaching everybody else it. And giving you the credit, by the way.
Well, I appreciate that, but give it when necessary. But keep in mind that once you give it a number of times, you deserve letting know what you did. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a big part.
Well, I appreciate you saying that.
So I know that you wanted Floyd here, and I know that Floyd also wanted to be here, but he knows that you did the offsite interview, and he knows that you were shooting this.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you close it out and tell him what you would have said to him if he could have come today?
Floyd, I'm sure you're going to see this. I just want to thank you for everything that you've done for me, and your legacy will continue through what we're doing here and all of our audience and leaders in the room who continue training their agents on now the Glover U system. And I wouldn't be where I am today if it weren't for you, so thank you.
Just remember, there is no thrill in easy sailing when the sky is clear and blue. There's no joy in merely doing things which anyone can do, but there is some satisfaction that is mighty sweet to take when you've reached the destination you were scared you might not make. Go for it, you guys. Thank you so much for today. Thanks a lot, you guys.